Long ago, it became eminently clear to the doctor of medicine that it was not his function to consider the probabilities of life or death in a given case, but to use every ounce of his knowledge and skill to effect recovery, regardless of the odds. The case in point, a gunshot wound, an historic one. It represented almost impossible odds. But to a young surgeon, impossible odds did not mean bowing to certain defeat. It meant striving for an unexpected victory. This is his story. The setting is a theater in the nation's capital city. The year is 1865, the night of Good Friday. The play in progress on the inside is of little consequence. The important drama is yet to begin. It will take place on the other side of the footlights. There are three principals involved. This man is one of them. His name is Charles A. Leal. He's an assistant surgeon, United States Volunteers, Grand Army of the Republic. He's in charge of the Wounded Commissioned Officers Ward at the Army General Hospital, Armory Square, Washington, D.C. He's 23 years old. The second principal is seated above and directly to the right of the young surgeon. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. He's 56 years old. The third principal, a man of medium height, medium weight. He's 26 years old, dark hair, dark eyes. His name is John Wilkes Booth. So it happens at approximately 25 minutes past 10 p.m. on the 14th day of April, 1865. The obscure assistant army surgeon meets Abraham Lincoln for the first time. For Charles A. Leal, it is vastly more than a surgical case. This is the man he has worshipped from a distance. This is his idol. Now the idol is slumped before him, a bullet in his brain, and for a brief moment, emotion overshadows reason.
Doctor, can you help him? Is he dead?
Please, Mrs. Lincoln, try to be calm. I'll do everything I possibly can. Here, give me a hand here.
As the body is lowered to the floor, the young surgeon becomes coldly practical. His decisions must be made quickly and surely. No time for emotions to interfere with his thinking.
After my preliminary examination, my first impression was that the body on the floor was that of a dead man. The eyes were closed and there was no pulse. I could not even be certain that he was breathing. By accident, my hand detected a clot of blood near the left shoulder. I remembered seeing a dagger flash by the assassin on the stage, so I set open the coat and shirt, thinking perhaps to check a hemorrhage. There was no evidence of knife wounds. I confess that at the moment I was at a loss. The confusion and hysteria did little to help. After a few moments of thought, I decided on my next course of action. I then took the president's head in both of my hands and passed my fingers through the hair. Almost immediately, I found a clotted wound in the back of the head. It was located on the occipital bone, about 1 inch to the left of the superior longitudinal sinus. I removed the blood clot without hesitation, which relieved pressure on the brain. Another few moments, I detected shallow breathing and a weak pulse. My next concern was Mr. Lincoln's respiration. I attempted to stimulate it by inserting 2 fingers into the throat and pressing down and out on the base of the tongue to free the larynx of secretion. At that moment, I believed my prognosis of the case had already been made. In a practical sense, I found it impossible to accept. He could not die. Everything possible had to be done. He couldn't die.
Doctor, is there anything we can do now? My dear, everything's going to be all right.
Oh, we're doctors. Oh, I'm Dr. Taft, United States Volunteers. This is Dr. King. What is it, do you know?
He shot through the head. Pulse is weak and there's no breathing. After further artificial respiration with the aid of Dr. Taft and Dr. King, Mr. Lincoln's body responded with irregular breathing. I then leaned forward and face to face several times drew in long breaths and then forcibly breathed directly into the mouth. How many times I repeated this, I do not know, but it seemed to expand the president's lungs and improve his respiration. I arose to the erect kneeling posture and watched Mr. Lincoln for a long moment. I saw that instant death would not occur.
Doctor, what is your opinion?
I'll wait a few moments, let him gain strength. After that, we'll take him to the nearest house across the street.
Oh, I can't agree with you, Doctor. The president should be taken to the White House. That's his place.
Not tonight, Doctor. You try to move him there, and he will die.
Doctor, they brought some brandy.
But just a small amount.
Doctor, please, could I hold his head for a moment? Make him more comfortable.
Yes, all right. While we waited for the president to gain strength before moving him, I examined the wound again and found another clot had formed. I removed it as before, and Mr. Lincoln's respiration again showed improvement. Also his pulse. By all the laws of medicine, his wound was mortal. I would not bring myself to admit it. There must be an answer. After speaking again with Dr. Taft and Dr. King, we agreed that Mr. Lincoln could now be moved to a house across the street where we might place him on a bed in safety. 4 soldiers from the Pennsylvania Light Artillery, Independent Battery C, were assigned to assist us. They carried the body by the trunk and legs. It was sometime near 10:45 o'clock when we lodged the president in a room on the first floor of the house directly across the street from the theater. As the body was placed on the bed, I held the face up to prevent the head from rolling to either side. Pillows were then placed under the head and shoulders. Doctors Taft and King agreed with my disapproval of the size of the bed, which prevented the body from lying completely straight. We examined the footboard with an eye to either breaking it or removing it. But we found it could not be done without collapsing the bed. We immediately shifted the president's body into a diagonal position, gently slanting it from the head and shoulders to the feet. All right, get some more towels, some hot water, some blankets.
We've cleared the room, sir. Everyone except Miss Keene and Mrs. Lincoln.
Do you have a messenger at hand?
Yes, sir.
All right, send for the president's son, Robert, and Dr. Bliss at the Armory Square Hospital, Dr. Barnes, the Surgeon General, and the president's physician, Dr. Stone, and see that the members of the cabinet are notified immediately.
Yes, sir.
Also have the steward light a fire here, please.
Yes, sir.
Jimmy. Oh, my husband.
Mrs. Lincoln. Mrs. Lincoln, would you mind leaving the room for a few minutes, you and Miss Keene? We'd like to examine the president further. The guard will find you a place to rest, and I'll call you later.
Breathing is labored. Pulse is 44.
Better undress him now and see if there are any other wounds.
No other wounds. Lower extremities are cold. Here, give me those blankets.
All right, prepare a mustard plaster large enough to cover the entire body.
Yes, sir.
Quickly, please. Can I have a light to examine the eyes, please?
Wax candle over here.
All right, fine. Light it, please. All right, thank you.
Any reaction?
It's wide dilation of the right pupil. Both eyes are completely insensible to light. The hospital steward returned with the synaphism, a large mustard plaster. And with the assistance of Doctors Taft and King, it was applied to the solar plexus and the entire anterior surface of the body. After examining the president's head wound once again, we found another clot had formed. It was removed immediately. I took notice that with the passing of time, Mr. Lincoln's breathing was becoming increasingly labored. At approximately 5 minutes past 11, I was advised that Mrs. Lincoln wished to see the president again. I voiced no objection. To spare her any additional pain, clean white napkins were spread over the stains on the pillow.
Got to live. Bring Tad at the White House. He loves him so much.
Mr. Stanton, the Secretary of War, sir.
All right, send him in, please.
Is there any hope?
There is always hope, Mr. Secretary. Edwin Stanton, Secretary of War, was a coldly practical man. He had a reputation for being ambitious, unemotional, hard-headed. But there in the quiet room for a brief moment, his actions belied his reputation. Thereafter, Mr. Stanton became the one-man dominant in the house for the rest of the night. He instantly assumed charge of everything and began issuing orders in that autocratic manner so true to his methods and so necessary to the occasion. As he left the room to dispatch a message to Vice President Johnson, the Surgeon General, Dr. Barnes, arrived, together with his assistant, Dr. Crane, the President's physician, Dr. Stone, and my superior at the Armory Square Hospital, Dr. Bliss. I immediately gave them a full report on what had been done, and also my detailed diagnosis of the case. I stated that whenever a blood clot was allowed to form over the wound, the intracranial pressure was thus increased, causing embarrassment to the heart and lung centers. Doctors Barnes, Crane, and Stone approved the plan of treatment as I outlined it to them, and it was continued throughout the night. Sometime between 11:30 o'clock and 11:45, there was noted spasmodic contractions of the hand, then the upper arm, then a twitching of the muscles of the face. It continued for some 15 or 20 minutes, and then ceased. A few moments after that, the President's son, Mr. Robert Lincoln, arrived.
Did he speak to you? Robert, what did he say? Oh, he'll speak to us. He'll speak to us when Dad comes. It'll be all right. It'll be all right.
At 2 o'clock in the morning, Dr. Barnes requested Robert Lincoln to escort his mother from the room, after which he advised us that he had decided to probe the wound.
Get your mother out of here.
body up, please. All right, easily now, easily. That's one of these times. Barnes first attempted to locate the bullet with an ordinary silver probe. At a depth of about 2 inches, he encountered an obstruction. The first probe was withdrawn, and a longer Nelaton probe substituted. The first obstruction was passed. Finally, Barnes advised the bullet was distinctly felt. The probe was then withdrawn, and no further efforts at exploration were made. Dr. Barnes sent word that Mrs. Lincoln and her son Robert might return to the room. Now there was only waiting, watching. All the signs pointed to the inevitable. The inevitable I refused. I would not accept it. Hours of the morning, they passed slowly, very slowly. The room was crowded, the air stale and warm. Faces were haggard, tightly drawn, nerves wearing thin under the strain.
Dad, they're not bringing him. He'd speak to Tad. Oh, Father loves him. He loves him.
Mother, please.
Dear God, no! No!
Take that woman out. Don't let her come back again.
Oh, don't take me away. No!
Sometime after 4 a.m., I left the room for a few moments and made my way out to the rear entrance of the house for a taste of fresh air. The rain was still falling. It felt good.
Doctor, sir, there's a chance for him. Any chance at all?
He's still alive, Belle. As long as he's alive, he's got a chance.
There's a big crowd out in front of the house. Soldier read him a message a while ago. Said it's hopeless.
You're not dead until you die, Belle. There's nobody on earth that can say what is hopeless, what is not.
The Lord wants Mr. Lincoln. That's what I think. Nothing you can do if the Lord wants him. No, sir. There's nothing you can do if the Lord wants him.
One was Abraham Lincoln.
There's only one way I'll know that for sure, Belle.
And one was
When the Lord takes him.
Oh, Good Friday. Oh, Good Friday. It was on Good Friday. Two of our masters They suffered on Good Friday. They suffered on Good Friday.
I returned to the room some 20 minutes before 5 o'clock. Surgeon General Barnes was at the head of the bed. For my own part, I sought to comfort and reassure the President, if that was possible. Knowledge that frequently, just before departure, recognition and reason return to those who have been unconscious caused me to hold Mr. Lincoln's right hand firmly within my grasp for more than an hour, to let him know in his blindness that he was still in touch with humanity and with a friend. Gradually, the bleeding from the wound became less and less, and it ceased entirely. At several points, the pulse could not be counted. Shortly after dawn, the breathing became more stertorous, more labored. The inspirations became very prolonged. Occasionally, the respiration would cease entirely. Then, once again, the profound silence in the room would be broken by a prolonged inspiration. This manner of respiration continued for a full hour. A few minutes before 7 a.m., it seemed to me that there was a slight improvement in Mr. Lincoln's pulse and respiration. At 5 minutes past 7, they took a sudden turn downward. 10 minutes past 7, the pulse is weak, more irregular. 15 minutes past 7. The intervals between respirations grow longer. 20 minutes past 7. The President's hand becomes cold to the touch. It is very difficult to detect the pulse. 21 minutes past 7. No pulse could be felt.
Mr. Lincoln is dead.
Now he belongs to the ages.
The last breath was drawn at 21 minutes and 55 seconds past 7 a.m. The final heartbeat detected at 22 minutes and 10 seconds past 7 a.m. Saturday, April 15th, 1865.
22 minutes, 10 seconds past 7 a.m., Saturday, April 15th, 1865. The 23-year-old surgeon, Charles Leal, finally concedes. The taste of defeat is always bitter, but for the young doctor it is tempered with one lasting assurance. He tried. With all the experience and wisdom and medical knowledge available to him in the year 1865, he tried.